Hello, everybody, and welcome to the first edition of Marty Lurie and Friends Talking Ball. What a thrill! This is great to be on YouTube, and Ryan does a great job of putting it together. And this is something we're going to do during the off season, and it's going to be interactive. We can take comments. As you see, you can type in something if you want to talk about it. And you know me from doing the talk shows for so many years. Whatever you want to say, we'll deal with it. Believe me. So it's going to be a lot of fun to do that. A big day today in San Francisco. Of course, as I said on Twitter, if you follow me at Baseball Marty, we said this a few days ago that it was imminent. We could feel it, that things were going to happen around the ball club, that changes were going to be made. And sure enough, yesterday, the Giants closed their offices. And then the press release came out about 10 o'clock in the morning that there was going to be a change at the front office, and the president of baseball operations was going to be different. And the shock was who it was going to be. We knew that Farhan was on thin ice, but we didn't know that the president of baseball operations was going to be the great Buster Posey. So that's our show. We're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about the Giants. We're going to talk about the playoffs, some other topical baseball news, Pete Rose, things like that. And we're going to do it with one of my favorites. And I love doing things with him. He's going to be a regular. If I take a week off, he can do the show and bring in his friends and talk about ball. But this show is for everybody. And that's the point of it. It's for everybody to enjoy it. If you've got questions, just type them in. And then we're going to do a lot of things where you are going to be able to be on the show, too. What do you hear how we're going to do this? So, Kerry Crowley, we love him. And I've done so many things with him. He's a former Rookie of the Year on the beat. And he's a big star in the media, of course, with The Athletic, the New York Times, and KMBR. And that is Kerry Crowley. Kerry, how are you?
Marty, too kind of an introduction, I must say. But Rookie of the Year was way back in 2017 when the Giants were losing 98 ball games. That was 2 general managers ago. Buster Posey was still, I think, right around 30 years old at the time. So shows you how quickly time flies. I still had a full head of hair. I wasn't receding anymore, you know. So it was a different time.
Yeah, let's not talk about hair. I'm wearing the Marty Lurie hat. I got the baseballism shirt on today. And you can see over my shoulder there, we got the Padre game on that Fernando Tatis just crushed one about 450 feet. And last I looked, the Padres are up 2-0 in that game. But the big news is, of course, around the ball club. Mm-hmm. And as I said earlier, I tweeted out a few days ago that something was up. We knew something was going to happen. Did you have any inkling that it was going to be Buster Posey who was going to walk into this job?
I had no idea that Buster had this desire and this strong of a desire to be involved in the day-to-day operations of the San Francisco Giants. I understood that he was involved in the big picture discussions, part of the board. He wanted to be part of the ownership group, and it was something different for Buster. But I think that I underestimated his competitive fire. What I really didn't see was how meaningful the San Francisco Giants are to him still. You felt that as a player, and you understood that when he was winning 3-5, but I did not understand the depth to which he was involved over the last few weeks. And it was really Andrew Baggerly of The Athletic who put out the story that told us about the Matt Chapman negotiations. Yeah. And that was the clue. That was the hint that I should have taken. But I was just of the belief that he was going to step away and that was going to be it. And he was going to have some say here or there. But what surprised you about this?
Well, not much, really. The Buster Posey part did. But, boy, we got a lot of people who like you.
That's a shock. It's a good thing the comments are hidden.
Liam is, these comments are terrific. Pete K, Light the Beam, they love us being on together. And, the comments are good. So, keep them coming, and I'll look at them on the chat here, and I'll be able to mention them. What led me to believe that the change was imminent, and it's kind of an inside way. Barry Tompkins, Barry Tompkins,
the great boxing broadcaster.
Yeah, and he's in the Bay Area, and he's married to Joan Ryan.
Mm-hmm. The great Joan Ryan.
Yes, a wonderful author, sports columnist, and now the media consultant for the San Francisco Giants. And Barry Tompkins, a few days ago, wrote a scathing column about Farhan and calling for essentially the change and his dismissal, things like that. And I said, boy, if Barry Tompkins, who's married to Joan, who works for the Giants, is doing that, then he knows he can do it because it's going to happen. So that's how I figured out about it. Here's any chance of the A's return to Oakland next year? Yeah, we'll talk about that during the show today too. But for me, let's talk Farhan for a few minutes.
Yeah, of course.
When he came in, it was the end of the Brian Sabean era, and there was going to be a change. The analytics were not a prominent part under Brian. Of course, he had the World Series titles and everything else, but it was a different run front office, and the world was changing, and baseball was changing even more. So Larry Baer wanted to get to that next generation, and as he talked about it when this change was made, I think it was okay for Bobby Evans was there, and that didn't work out. But I think the change was okay. It just didn't work with Farhan. It was the right move at the time. It just the way he micromanaged and the way he dealt with the margins. And he said it himself. He never quite understood the legacy of the San Francisco Giants. Someone wants to know what's on TV behind me. It's the Padre game. Come on, man. I've been watching baseball all day today.
Yeah.
He never quite got the legacy of the San Francisco Giants and how to build the team and that kind of stuff. So I think he understood it at the end, but that was his undoing, that he just couldn't relate to the team the way Posey, we'll talk about what Posey said today. Posey described my show today. The memories that we make and the connection of generations and all that kind of stuff, the beauty of baseball. And that's what Posey talked about today. So for me, that was it with Farhan. How about for you?
I go back to 2017 when the Giants lost 98 games. They decided, Marty, that they had to recalibrate and lean back into that core. So they could have rebuilt, they could have traded away some of their star players, but Brian Sabean and Bobby Evans back in 2017 say, we believe in these players that we've got here, and we're going to double down. We're going to bring in Evan Longoria and Andrew McCutchen while staying under the luxury tax. And that was kind of the undoing of that generation of Giants baseball, the decision to try to compete after winning 98 games and not taking that as a sign that you needed to make some dramatic changes to the way that the organization was run. And so they come back in 2018 and they try to win, and they lose a big number of games again. I think it was 87 or 89. Bobby Evans, unfortunately, loses his job. And the organization at the time recognized that baseball had passed them by in certain ways, not necessarily every way, but they felt like it was an arms race that they were losing. And the only way to catch up was to swing so drastically in a different direction. And who represented the greatest change in baseball at that time from the San Francisco Giants, the way that they conducted business? It was Farhan Zaidi. It was his tenure in Oakland with the A's. It was his tenure in Los Angeles with the Dodgers. He represented the biggest possible move to analytics. And the Giants are a bold organization. When they like to do things, they like to do things big. And so when Larry Baer said next gen, Farhan meant next gen. And the challenge is they didn't need to go that far in terms of analytics. They needed to modernize the organization. They needed to make some critical changes to the organization. Probably bringing in a different voice was important, but it felt like that pendulum swung too far. And we saw that over the course of the last 3 seasons where the Giants were essentially chasing an 83, 85 win season with the hope of getting into the playoffs, which is how probably 60% of these franchises are run. But these are the Giants. You and I talk about this all the time on our weekend shows. The Giants are a gold standard organization across Major League Baseball, or at least they should be a gold standard Major League Baseball organization. And so what they've now done is they're trying to meet in the middle. They're trying to find a happy medium between where they were when Brian Sabean and Bobby Evans ran the organization, where Farhan was, and you've got that blend in someone who understands the legacy of the organization, someone who understands what it means to be a Giant, what this franchise means to people who are season ticket holders, who listen to our shows on the weekends, and who follow this team closely, but also knows how to win in modern baseball. And Buster proved he could do that. He obviously has the 3 World Series titles, but he proved he could do that in 2021 as well, as he adapted better than any other player to the Gabe Kapler and Farhan Zaidi era when he had that season. And so I think this is the meshing in the middle, and this is the path forward right now.
Yeah, and the other thing is Gabe Kapler. And we can't overlook that. And that was Farhan's choice. And
Absolutely.
Bochy read the tea leaves. He knew in 2019 when you were probably with us in spring training at that point. In 2019, when he knew that Farhan was coming in and Farhan wanted his own guy. And Bochy said, I'm not going to be a distraction. I will not be a distraction all year. I'm just going to tell you right now, I'm done. And of course, then Gabe came in. There was you hate to use the word disconnect, but they never connected to what you just described, the Giants way.
Yep. It didn't matter.
Yeah. Now, Giants market like crazy. They market like crazy. They do. This year, they averaged over 33,000 a game, 2.67 million, whatever it is, ninth in baseball. But the ball club has got to catch up to the marketing. And that's what Buster Posey has got to do. And I asked him the question today. I said, I was lucky enough to be called upon to ask a question today.
Lucky enough.
Lucky enough. I had to raise my hand 6 times, but they finally called on me. But I said, Buster, what do you think about this ball club? How do you assess it? And do you have a tough job to get to where you want to be? Because he described the winning team and, the essence of winning and supporting each other and accountability and all the great buzzwords of putting a team together, which is all well and which he brings to the table. But does he have the players? And if he doesn't, how does he go out to get them? And that was my question to him. And he kind of sidestepped it a little bit because he wasn't going to take on each position, in that conference the way it was today. But that's what he's got ahead of him. He wants to become the man who created the San Francisco Giants again in his era, because we had Willie McCovey and Willie Mays in Orlando passed this year and Gaylord last year. And, Will Clark is still here. But this era of Giants baseball that he represents is 10 years old now. And there's a whole new fan base out there that has to love what those guys did. And listening to him today, it wouldn't shock me to see Brandon Crawford come back in some coaching way. Now, not as a full-time coach, but spring training coach. It wouldn't shock me to see Belt come back, as crazy as Belt is. We have so much fun with that guy. Can you imagine him hanging around and doing this? But that's the Giants way. When I grew up, the Yankees did it all the time. You talk to people who are in spring training with the Yankees, and there's Whitey Ford, and there's Mantle, and there's, Billy Martin, and all sorts of different people. And that's what he wants to do with the Giants. Bring back the Giants way, create the memories, because it's the memory that you, with your dad, going to Ebbets Field with my Uncle Abe when I lived in Brooklyn. It's me taking Bonnie, Evan, and Aaron to games. Those are the memories we've created, and why they're probably listening. I hope they're told to listen tonight to the show. But that's what he wants to create, and that's what he brings to the table. Now, he's got a big job on his hands because he's got to get a general manager. And Pete Patella, who was the general manager, and one thing Pete did was very important, and that is that Pete scouted Jung-Ho Lee.
Yep.
Pete could vote in Korea now. He spent so much time with that's how much time Pete spent watching Jung-Ho Lee, and he was right. He was good. Jung-Ho Lee is going to be a player, and unfortunately got hurt. But he's got ahead of him, he's got a serious job to put all this stuff together. And he needs a general manager and he's emphasized, understands scouting. And that's critical. So what I read between the lines there, Pete has been told that he's going to have another function in the organization, and good for him.
Yeah.
Seems like a decent guy. He came from Houston. He's got good credentials. And I think he can appreciate, the analytical part of the job that he has to do. But when you look at people who could get the job, one is this Billy Owens.
We've said it for years.
I have. I've talked to him for 15, 18 years at games. I sit with him at the Fall League. I see him during the Major League season. His best friend is Sam Hughes, Gary Hughes' son, now the cross-checker for the Giants. And the two of them know everything about everything in baseball. professional or amateur. And Billy Owens, I think, has probably got the inside track to the job. Formerly assistant GM to the A's, African American. They talked about diversity and doing that in the search. He's a great guy.
Yeah.
He exudes, when you talk to him, you can't wait for the next game, or you can't wait to see that player play. And he's good, because all the trades the A's made over all the years, he was in the middle of it and evaluating players. So he could be in it. Now, and Jeremy Shelley was the other one that Greg Johnson threw in there today when Buster said I was having the search, and it could be a guy or a girl. I like the way he said that today.
Yeah.
That's Buster. That was great. And Greg Johnson said, well, kind of said, well, we have Jeremy Shelley here too, which means he'll stay.
Yeah.
He also is a very valuable piece of the puzzle. So that what I took today, Buster's back. Buster's the figurehead, and Buster's going to have input, believe me, but he's not going to wake up every day saying, geez, do they have 12 dozen baseballs in Richmond? Who do I call to do that? He's going to make a whole layer of people, just like the Dick Tidrow, Lee Elder, the Turk, and Brian Sabian, and Bobby Evans, and all that brain trust that was together. He's going to make that happen the Giants way. Not going to be detached. When he sits down to talk, you're going to be talking to someone who gives Buster hugs. When you see him, you want him to hug you. And that's what Buster Posey is all about, and that's what I got from today.
Yeah, I get the sense that if Billy Owens is open to it and the Giants can figure something out here, Marty, it would make all the sense in the world to have Buster as your president of baseball operations and essentially have two assistant general managers, two co-general managers in Jeremy Shelley and Billy Owens, because Jeremy is the guy who can knock out the contract details. Jeremy's the guy who can make the phone call late at night and say, we've got to get another left-hander in Houston. He's got dozens of years of experience doing that inside the Giants organization. He's a Giant through and through. He did it through the Brian Sabian era. He did it through the Bobby Evans era. He's been a minor league free agent guy. He's often signed players who've made a big impact on the major league roster who folks didn't see coming. I think he is the type of person who absolutely has a valuable role in the Buster Posey-led San Francisco Giants. But Billy Owens is the other key to this equation, because he's someone who can help you swing that big trade. He's someone who can determine which of the free agents over at first base should you be going for this year? Should it be Pete Alonso, or should you try to trade for someone else over at first base? I think that Billy's kind of the baseball guy. Furthermore, Billy is the person who I think on a day-to-day basis, the Giants want speaking to the media. I think he's someone who needs to go out there and be forward-facing, because you've mentioned it. He's got this infectious personality. He really talks baseball at this deeper level that so many executives around the sport, let's be honest, it's cold. They don't have that background in the sport. They don't have that love of the game that exudes when you talk to a Billy Owens. And it was clearly an issue for both Farhan Zaidi, and let's be honest, Gabe Kapler, even as a major league player with that background, he doesn't have that same level of clear passion that, say, a Stephen Vogt did when he came through this Giants organization, now is managing the Guardians in the playoffs. So I think a front office setup where you've got those three, and you've got clearly defined roles. You've got Pete overseeing some amateur scouting, or something like that. Maybe he's a farm director in the future. I don't know what that looks like. But if you surround yourself with the smartest and most capable people in the game, you're going to have a strong organization. And for the next 2 weeks, it's going to be fascinating to see who Buster interviews, who he brings in, and who he listens to, because this success is not contingent on Buster winning the next 2 years. It's on Buster winning this interview process with the 3 or 4 people he brings in to assist him in this front office.
Yeah, and that'll change things. And then, that's going to change the way everyone works within the ballpark and how they sit before the game and how things are done behind the scenes. And that's going to be huge. And he's going to make that happen. Bogey could be part of it. Javier Lopez could be part of it. Joe Panic is here now.
Pablo Sandoval should be a part of it with the Latin American players down in the Dominican Republic. You'd love to see him in that sort of a role, helping them make the transition to the United States when they come over. There's so many different people they could bring in here.
Yeah. So I think they got the right guy. I do. They got a guy who he will delegate properly. He's a smart man. He loves the Giants. He wants to do this job. He's got a 3-year deal. He did kind of the Billy Beane thing.
Yeah.
Billy Beane is an owner of the A's, and he can't fire himself. So I mean, they asked Buster that today, and it's a 3-year contract, but he's in the executive board and all
3-year contract. Yeah.
Yeah,
we'll see about that.
I know. But that was it. That was it today. There was a lot of good feeling in the room. Jeremy Shelley, I saw him today. Yeshaya Goldfarb, I saw him today. So I think part of the core will still be there. And now the question is, what do you do with the team?
Yeah.
How do you deal with the team? And, as I'd say, they're facing the Padres, who are, if you look over my shoulder, I assume they're still winning. You're dealing with the Diamondbacks, who got nosed out by a game, and you're dealing with the Dodgers. And, and Colorado's getting better. So you got to be one of the top 6. Now they're one of the top 10.
Mm-hmm.
That's not where you want to be player-wise. So Bob Melvin was very quiet today. I mean, there wasn't much he was going to say anyway.
Yeah.
But he was kind of quiet. And but the one thing he did say, the one thing he said was very relevant. And they said, well, what do you want, Bob, for your team next year? He says, I want to be able to win games in a different way with different methods. Meaning, he wants to be able to hit the ball out of the park, but he wants to go first to third, and he wants hitters who understand when there's a runner on third with less than 2 out, you got to be Luis Ariz to some degree. You can't, and Will said it Sunday. You watch that Brendan Donovan and Burleson for the Cardinals, that flat swing. You've got to change your swing to some degree.
Mm-hmm.
And you got to be able to do that. And Pat Burrell, and Justin Vealey, they're the hitting coaches. We'll see if they come back. But absolutely, what Melvin was saying today, he said, look, I like to win games the way we win them, but I want to have a whole team to do it. And it's having a guy like Tyler Fitzgerald and Grant McCray, who unfortunately strikes out too much, but he's young and he's got every tool, and he's a good kid. So you want to see that develop. So that was Melvin's wish today.
Yeah, and I think one of the things that you'll see, and it won't happen overnight, but I expect this to happen over 2 to 3 years. If Buster stays in this role for 3 years, as his contract would indicate that he will. But one thing that I think you'll see is an approach to get more 170 to 180 starting or inning pitchers in the organization. So whether that's through trades or free agency, whether they're drafting them, guys who can carry the workload of going 5 to 6 every time out. And what you'll also see is players who, like Matt Chapman, are out there 130 to 140 times a year at their respective positions. Jung-Hoo Lee will be one of those guys when he comes back and is healthy. It's easy to envision Elliot Ramos in that type of role in left field, but you've got to have more stability in the lineup. And so they've got a ton of difficult decisions to make. I think one of the most telling decisions they'll make, Marty, this offseason is Mike Yastrzemski, because he was a teammate of Buster Posey's. He plays the game in a way that Buster played it. He very hard-nosed player, very intense in the clubhouse, very serious in his preparation process. He doesn't have the physical gifts that Buster had. He's not the same caliber of player, but I wonder, he's due 10, 11 million in arbitration. Does Buster want that mentality in the clubhouse, or does he think that the production they might be able to find elsewhere matters more? That's going to be an interesting first decision.
Well, as I said on the show, evaluation is the key.
Mm-hmm.
How do you evaluate Eldridge? And I'm going to see him next week. I'm sure when the fall league starts, I'll be able to see him. I'm sure if Billy Owens is the guy, I'll be seeing him down there as well. So how do you evaluate Eldridge? How do you evaluate the season Lamont Wade had? He's your first baseman. He drove in 32 runs and his legs were banged up the whole year.
Yeah.
You can't have that. What do you do with Yastrzemski? What do you do with, the right fielder? You need Santander. Seriously, you need 40 home runs. You need 30 home runs. You don't need 12 home runs.
Yeah.
As much as we love Mike Yastrzemski, and he plays a great right field, and, he's Nate Scherholtz, all over again with that wall. But you can't have that. And Buster's got to make that determination. You can't have that. You need a shortstop.
Yeah.
Look, when the ball was hit the craw in the ninth inning, you knew he caught it. Now a ball's hit, and we love Fitzgerald's speed and all that, but you need a shortstop.
Yeah.
See the hands, but you have to have patience with Ramos as well. The guy was great. Showed up every day, every single day. Never stopped hustling. Could steal a bag, but he had a rookie season. And
Hmm.
he hit over 20 home runs. Now you got to adjust and see what he's going to do next year. So you got to be comfortable with that. So there are things there that you're going to have to deal with. I don't think they'll sign Snell. I just don't think that they want to commit that many years to him. I don't. I think that they have some of the young pitching that probably is decent enough, but they need a pitcher to go with Logan Webb. Logan Webb is a good two. He's not that guy. Maybe he is. Maybe he's a one plus.
Yeah.
But they need the guy to go with him. And it could be Corbin Burns, who went 8 innings today and he went to St. Mary's. It could be him. But the guy I want is Max Fried. I want a lefty.
I like it.
I want a ground ball pitcher in that park. Come on, are you kidding me? Max Fried in that park. Max Fried, if they leave him in the game long enough, he'll win 18. But I want Max Fried. That's the guy I want to go with Webb. Then you can have Harrison. I don't know what they're going to do with Hicks. Robbie Ray. I don't. They're going to have to undo some stuff that Farhan did.
Yep.
You got Robbie Ray for 2 years at $50 million. He better earn it. You just can't hang around. And so he's got to be able to do that. The other one is Hicks. The Farhan plan was to make him a starter, and he never pitched more than 65 innings. Hello, you kind of knew that there could be trouble there, and now he's got his shoulder hurts. It's the last thing you want to hear. Put him back in the bullpen if that's what you have to do, and you have Birdsong and Harrison, and you have Webb, and you pick up somebody, and then you have some of the other kids who may be ready, or you pick up another veteran. Pitching is not a problem. Getting pitchers in that park, they can get pitchers in that. They can do that. So
absolutely.
Thanks. One, we do the contest every Sunday to guess the score of the game. So I told Raph, I said, we're doing our first show on YouTube, and this show will be on. The plan is if there's breaking news, and if you've subscribed, right? If you subscribe, you get a note that we're coming on. So let's say there's breaking news, Giants sign, blah, blah, blah. Well, we'll come on in a few hours and talk about it. So we'll do that. But then I want to have like a regular show with you and, others, but you specifically, that we do once a week or something like that, or, just something on a regular basis every Wednesday, every Thursday, 5 or 6 o'clock at night.
Yeah.
And I want to be able to do that. But the point is to include as many people as we can. So we did the contest Sunday, and I said to Raph, let's announce it in our first show today. All right. So the winner of a dinner for, come on, man, I should let you do this. Dinner for two at Original Joe's.
Oh, the best.
Outstanding butter cake. Trust me. It
best dessert in the world.
Yeah. And for me, it's the cheesecake, but they treat you like royalty. When you win one of these contests and you go there, it's a night you'll never forget. It really is fun. So the winner, there were about 7 or 8 people who had the score right on Sunday, and Raph picked the winner. It's Bam Bam, BAMG3FAM. So Bam Bam, get in touch with Raph, send him your email, and then we'll get you set up at Original Joe's. So we got that going on. The other thing is we're going to have a couple of sponsors on the show. And when I announced that we're doing it, Rick Robin, who's been a sponsor on the radio show, said, I want to be part of it. So I said, all right, not a problem. And we created that. So Rick Robin is going to be part of us. Remember, it's Rick Robin Construction up in Napa.
Yep.
And it's kitchens, it's in-law units, granny units, all that kind of stuff. And he's fabulous because he does it soup to nuts. In other words, you hire him, you go to the warehouse where he's got everything, you pick out what you want, then the crew comes and they do it. And my daughter Bonnie, of course, says, send them to my house. I want a new kitchen. So Bonnie, one of these days I will. But So Rick Robin Construction is our first sponsor. We'll have others as well. I haven't even talked to Georgie Brothers or John Dugan over at Original Joe's or something like that. Gene Bagato, of course, at Bodega Bay. So I told Raf, send our little 30-second spot to Ryan. So Ryan, let's hear from.
It's been a pleasure working with Rick Robin this year. Rick Robin, ROBBEN, NapaConstruction.com. Rick, the last time you were on with us, you told us about kitchen and bath remodeling, but there's a lot more going on up in your area.
Yes, there is. ADUs, auxiliary dwelling units, which are nose to grain units. We can do your existing garage, attached garage, even building a new unit in the back. And so what we do is come out, bring our architect out there. Such a great thing. No sewer hookup fees, no water hookup fees. So that's what we do.
Rick, how does one start the process with you? How does one get in touch with you?
Oh, you call Tammy, 707-332-7575, 7 days a week.
Rick Robin, ConstructionNapa.com. Rick, the thing I like
about it is you do all the work.
So that works for me. That's a proposition that I can be a part of.
Wonderful man, and he does a nice job up there. So, Ryan, do we have questions that you want to put on the screen that we should answer? If you do, you can pop them up there, and Kerry and I can see them. Okay, here we go. This is from Bruce Mahalik. There's a picture of Bruce. So, do you think Burns, Santander, or Soto are possible Giants next year? Kerry, I'll let you hit the first one.
Yeah, I think that Corbin Burns is probably the most likely candidate because of what Marty just said. You need someone to pair with Logan Webb atop this Giants rotation. And if they believe in Robbie Ray and they believe in Kyle Harrison, you're going to have two lefties already. And so I think that instead of bringing back a Blake Snell, you've got Corbin Burns out there who you could bring in. He's from California. You bring him back to the West Coast. I think that's a great option. Santander, realistically, can you project 40 home runs? Is it another Jorge Soler situation? I really like him. I think he's better than Soler has been. I think he's really injected the Orioles with a ton of life over the last few years. Probably one of the most underrated players in baseball. Soto, I don't think so. I think Soto's staying in New York, Yankees and the Mets, and the Giants will have a meeting with him, and they'll have the opportunity to treat Juan Soto to dinner.
Yeah. Well, Soto is not allowed to leave the island of Manhattan. Unless it's to go to an away game. Believe me, the Yankees have got him covered 24/7. He's not going anywhere. I like Santander, and I went through this yesterday. I forgot with who at the ballpark, and we went through his record and how many games he's played. He plays 150 games a year, and he's at 36, 38, 43. He's a switch hitter too, and he looks like a heck of a player. And he'll be 30. You're not talking about getting a guy who's 34 or 26 or 27. He's old enough to be a ball player. He's like Chapman in a way. He's old enough to be a ball player now, and you're going to get what you get when you get him. I would do it. The other thing, and Burns, and you bring up a good point. I want another lefty because if you get another lefty, then you can do something with Robbie Ray, and Harrison may not be ready yet. Harrison may need more minor league time to get the slurve down and everything else.
He needs a breaking ball. Ball.
Right. So you do have Ray. So for me, I like, as I said, Max Fried, but Burns is good. Burns is solid. He's a solid competitor, a Cy Young Award winner. I could go with Burns in that situation. I could go with that. Vlad Guerrero's still a possible, I guess. My point is this: when we talk about, you have to take a chance. The days, and I with all due respect to Farhan, you've got to take a chance. You can't say, well, the athletic number shows up, blah, 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 and against righties, the spin rate is blah, blah, blah. You got to take a chance in this organization because it's not going to turn around. And if it takes trading, there's no untouchable for me. I want to tell you that on this roster, there is no untouchable. And if it takes that, maybe to get Vlad Guerrero to put him at first base. But the problem is you got Eldridge. See, you can't do that until you determine what you really have with Eldridge. But my point is, don't be afraid to take a chance. And
you can figure it out later.
Right. If
Figure
it
it out
means
later.
Santander, he's worth 180 and you got to pay 210, pay 210. Really.
I like
Rachel,
it.
Rachel, if you're listening to me, don't get nervous. It's only money. Rachel Hyde, of course, is the marketing, in charge of marketing. But that's my point. Take a chance.
Yeah.
Take a chance.
I'm in support of that. Marty, I've got to let you go here. I've got to take off, but it's been a privilege to be a part of your first Marty Lurie and Friends, and I hope that after my appearance, it's still friends at the end. I hope it's not Marty Lurie and enemies after my 30 minutes here.
If there's anyone to do the first show with, I wanted it to be you. And like I say, if I'm not around or take a week off, you do it.
I'll be in.
Yeah, good. All right, Kerry. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right, that is Kerry Crowley. It's always a pleasure to have him. So basically, that's what we wanted to talk about today was, of course, Buster Posey, the new baseball operations president, and the staff that he's going to be assembling to be around him. And the first order of business is a general manager. And he did emphasize the scouting area. So what Kerry said about Jeremy Shelley handling the nuts and bolts, good idea. Billy Owens, if that's where they go, assistant GM with the A's for years, very successful. That's a good way to go as well. Pete Patella, who's there now, if he gets reassigned, that's fine. Coach Chad, who's been a very loyal supporter of ours for so long, wants to know who I think will win the World Series, or at least be in it. And I think it's the Yankees. I think it's the Yankees, and it's going to be the Padres. That's my feeling. Look, in the American League, Detroit won today 3-1. And, they can't hit. And A.J. Hinch, he had 6 great innings out of Skubal. Then they pulled him out of the game. And he had great work from one of his relievers. They pulled him out of the game. And then the next guy had trouble. They almost lost the game in the 9th inning. They just don't have enough to score. They don't have enough pitching for me. Houston is another team that's struggling. They may win. They may come back and win that Tiger series, but the Tigers have a great bullpen, and today it is a game of bullpens. Kansas City, they can't score as well. Bobby Witt drove in the only run, and they won 1-0 over the Orioles. And that Cole Reagans, the lefty, pitched great today, 6 innings, no runs, and they took him out. And Ursig came in and had to get a 4 or 5 out save for Kansas City, and the Orioles were threatening in the 9th inning again. And he got out of it. By the way, Jason Hayward ended the Houston game with bases loaded, hit a rocket to first base to Torkelson, and that was the end of that. So those two teams, they're going to end up playing the Yankees and Cleveland, and I think the Yankees and Cleveland will take care of them. And I think the Yankees probably can beat Cleveland. As good as Cleveland's bullpen is, they have trouble scoring runs, and I just feel this is the year of Judge and Soto and Stanton and the things that the Yankees do. I just think that, to me, that would be the logical winner in the American League. The National League, I always said this for so many years, teams that fight to get in somehow always do better. And I know Atlanta, last I looked, someone could comment there and tell me what the score is of the Atlanta game, but, they fought to get in. They have so many holes because of their offense, but they've got some decent pitching. But losing Chris Sale, not having him available with his back spasms, I think kiss them goodbye. I really do. I think San Diego will take them out. The Mets, on the other hand, are one of those teams that fought and scratched and did everything they can to get in this thing. And they scored 5 with 2 out in the 4th inning. And they were down in the game 3-0, 4-3. 2-0, 4-3, and ended up winning 8-4 over Milwaukee. And the Mets have that. They have it, whatever you want to call it, in Lindor. And I think there's a good chance. 3-0 San Diego, Robbie. Thanks so much. I appreciate that. TC, thank you. And I think the Mets are going to be trouble. And we'll see who the Mets end up, how that series ends up. That's a 4. What's that? The Mets series is a 3-6 series. So we'll see where that ends up and who gets the Dodgers or Phillies after that. I think baseball should reseed this thing anyway. If the number one team ends up playing a better seed than the number two team, there's something wrong with that. The number one seed should always get the weaker seed, and baseball doesn't do it. I don't know why they don't do it. Football does it. Everyone does it, and I think baseball should do it too. So the Dodgers, for me, their pitching just, I don't know. I mean, as good as Ohtani is, and Betts and Freeman and everything else, they're good. They are, and they're good. But I just have that feeling that it's not going to be their year. I think if they have to go up against San Diego can beat them. The Phillies are a tough team. My son Evan is a big Philly fan, and they've got starting pitching. Ranger Suarez has been trouble, but this Sanchez has been very good. Wheeler has been good, and Nola's solid. They've got a lot of bullpen. They've been there before. I think if it's the Phillies and San Diego for the pennant, if that could match up somehow, that's going to be one heck of a series. I'm going to stick with San Diego. I just think for some reason it's their year. But I could see the Phillies, believe me. It could be Phillies, Yankees. Not impossible. That could happen. So I'll be back in Arizona next week. As you can see behind me, I'm in the beautiful Hotel Via doing the show from here today. And I stuck around, not going back to Arizona. I was going to go back this morning, but I wanted to be at the press conference today to hear what was going to happen. And certainly once I heard it was Buster, I definitely wanted to be there. This is going to be a new era of Giants baseball. It really is. But the thing is, what Kerry and I were talking about, and I'll talk about it all winter with you, as they make moves, evaluation of what they've got. Buster can do all he wants about the memories and accountability and, the beauty of a team and blah, 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 and all that. But the players write the lineup, and the players tell you what you got. Now, you can do better in the clubhouse, and you can get players who hustle all the time, but you got to have the quality player. And what's going to happen with Luciano? Who knows? I mean, for 4 years, he's bounced around. I still like the bat. The bat plays. I think he needs time in the minor leagues. You look at Matos, they're all kids. They're really young. McRae is young. They're 23. The pitchers are 22, 23. There's a lot of makings of a good team here. It's just going to take time to do it. And I think that's where this evaluation comes in. But they're going to add some people, and they're going to do it, and it's going to be an exciting offseason. I think we've got that going on. Do you like this 3-game series? I kind of like it. The only thing for me is you fight so long for 7 months. And, now baseball, it's their party. And you fight for 7 months to get in, and you're going home by Wednesday. You know what I mean? I mean, the fight to get in, the journey is what I always talk about. That's the story of baseball. And you go through this journey, and every day, the heart-wrenching wins, the torture. By the way, the Giant team, what was fun about them, they score late. And that's actually with Wisely and a few of the other players, came through late in the game. That was cool. And that was a good part of them because they didn't quit. And that's a good part of them. But you fight to get in for 7 months, 162 games, and you go down to the last pitch, and all of a sudden you're going home Wednesday. And I know it's better than the one game. It's better than the one, but I wish that maybe there's just not enough pitching to do it or enough time to do it. But I wish that first series was 5 games. I do. I love the 5-game series for the division. It changes on a dime. And that will be happening before I speak to you the next time. So let me tell you what I say every year. And it goes back to the Giants in Cincinnati in 2012 when they lost Sunday night 9-0. And I did the call-in show. And God, I was a psychiatrist. Believe me, I was the doctor that night trying to assure everybody it wasn't over. Because those 5-game series, they change day to day, inning to inning, pitch to pitch. A 5-game series, all you got to do is win an inning and then win a game. You're down 1-0, you win, it's 1-1, and you're excited. You're down 2-0. You win a game. You're down 2-1. Say, boy, if we win today, we're tied up. So the 5-game series is the best. It's the best, and you never quit on it. And the Giants showed that. So we'll talk more about playoff baseball next week when we're on again. But Ryan did a great job tonight. I got a nice note from Dan Cocomiglio, and I'll be on his channel. And Larry Kruger wants me to be on his channel. There's Dan. Thank you, Ryan. Welcome, Marty, to YouTube. You're going to literally knock it out of the park. All right. Well, I want this to be fun. So the other thing I want to do is, again, write me an email, martylurie@yahoo.com, and tell me why you'd like to be on. And you can do a segment with me. We're not going to have you on for a half hour, but you can come on. We'll send you the link to come on the show, and you will come on just like this, and we'll talk. And you can ask your question or give your opinion or whatever you want to talk about, and we'll do that. And we'll try to do a couple each week that we can do it. I want this to be for everybody. I want someone, the guy you talk to at the bar, the guy you talk to in a restaurant, the guy we talk to at the ballpark, the usher that we talk to, someone like that, a scout. Everyone can come on. There's no reason. I don't care. Why not? That's the essence of what baseball is all about. So Marty Lurie at yahoo.com is the way to do it. And just tell me why. And we'll choose a couple. And then Ryan will get in touch with you and he'll give you the link and you'll click on and you'll be on with me. So we're going to try to do that. So we'll try to do that for next week. So reach out to me for that. The other thing is subscribe. And I'm just learning how all this works. You want to do the notification too. I think that's important. So if, let's say, they sign someone or they make a trade, in the middle of the week, then we can come on that night, like Dan does or Larry does from time to time, and be able to give you baseball news up to the minute. And that's what I really want to do over the winter. I was talking to FP today about it, and I said, do you want to come on? I said, absolutely. Andy Baggerly. Talk to him about it. So there's so many people that we can have on. Katie Wu from St. Louis. There's a lot of changes going on in St. Louis. Mark Simon from Sports Info Solutions. Bruce Jenkins. And then the other thing we're going to do, let's see. I got, all right, Rick Brown, thank you. I'm trying to read some of the comments. But yeah, Ryan, put them up there if you want me to read them. The professor, Ron Wotus. Whoa. We're going to do this. Will will be on, and you'll be able to ask questions in the comment part to Woe while he's on. And we're going to call it Ask the Coach or Ask the Professor or something like that. And it'll be live. So, you'll see Woe, you'll see me, and I'll read your question, and Woe will answer it. And, from watching him or listening to him on my show, and I got River Islands involved with this. It's great. If you missed Woe last Sunday, go to loveofthegameproductions.com or the KBR podcast page. We did close to 50 minutes of essentially what Buster talked about today, of how to make a winning team. And this was candid from Woe's a coach. And he laid it out on the kind of players you need and the way you have to do it. So that's it. Yeah, I was saying Larry Kruger. Yeah, Larry has invited us on. Damon, absolutely. Damon has invited me on. Damon will be part of this. I'd love to have him on. But, those guys do it, and they've made a wonderful career out of it. It's not easy to do this the way they do it. And they've gotten sponsors, and they have great production. Ryan is fabulous, who's doing this for me. I can't thank him enough for putting this together. We have a lot of things in common, which we'll talk about as the show goes on over a couple of weeks. So essentially, that's it. We'll try to keep it to 30, 40 minutes. And Glenn Kuiper, yes, I talked to Glenn. Thank you. Eddie Montague, talked to him too. Pete, yeah, Pete, you're all over this. Shay Hay, talked to him. Crawford needs to be at Papago with Fitzgerald. That comes from Rick Brown. No doubt in my mind. And you know why he'll help Fitzgerald, who, by the way, is getting married, I think, next week. I said, what are you doing in the off season? He says, I'm getting married next week. So, all right, that'll take up his next couple of months. But his baseball clock runs quickly, and Craw probably can get him being a shortstop, and Woe works with him on it, getting him to relax in the field. He's a good player. Again, they're rookies. The league adjusts to him. He strikes out a lot now, but heck, he hit 14, 15 home runs. He hit 5 in 5 days. And the same thing with Matos. And these are guys that you just have to take your time with. Ramos as well. But the guy I like is Grant McCray. There's something about him. I asked him, I think Raph put this on loveofthegameproductions.com, my interview with him. If not, I'll play it here next week. It's about 5-6 minutes. But I asked him, it's his father's, shot of this when they show the guy in the outfield running through the fence. That's his father, Rodney McCray. I said, are you sick of seeing that? And he said, I'm terribly sick of it. And I said, did he catch the ball? And he says, absolutely not. And you can tell him I said that. So the kid has got personality. He does. And he strikes out like crazy, but he can run. And he's got legit power. He's a big kid. And that's a guy that you want to spend and take your time with and develop him. So there's a lot of that for the Giants. All right. So that's the show for today. Back with you. Just follow. If you subscribe, you'll get the notice. And Twitter at Baseball Marty. YouTube, it's at Baseball Marty Lurie. And Sandra's another one I want to have on. And Carmen, too. Absolutely. I absolutely want to have them on. And Susan Slusser, I'm sure we'll catch up with, too. So there's just so many people. Marty Lurie and friends, and you are my friends too. So we want to have you on there too. So everyone, have a good night. And that's our show for today. And I will talk to you next week right here on Marty Lurie and Friends Talking Ball.